This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 329 of the CineSnob Podcast. My name is Cody Villafana, and I am joined this week by Kiko Martinez. And because we've got a big, huge IP movie, Jerrod Kingery has joined the fold as well.
It's not so much here to. I thought he was here to review Jane Austen Wrecked My Life.
Oh,
Yeah?
It's not that it's an IP movie. It's that it's like a foundational franchise of my childhood. And I know Kiko's too. So
yeah. I'm going to be the one who kind of clears the way for the two of you when we get into that.
What does that mean?
discussion. I'm just going to say my piece and then let you two have it out. I'm kind of curious to see the difference of opinion that the two of you might have. Now, Jerrod, Kiko, have you seen all of Cobra Kai? I know, Jerrod, you're pretty steeped in it, right?
I got behind. I binged the last two seasons fairly recently, I think right after it officially wrapped airing. But yes, I was an early adopter. I was watching it on YouTube Red back in the day. I got to see season 2 early because I, much to Kiko's chagrin, got to interview Ralph Macchio, William Zabka, and Martin Kove, along with the creators at South by.
Right.
So they sent me I watched season 2 like a month before it came out. I had to watch it like on my iPad. It was not a fun experience, but yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask Kiko if he had seen it. So finish your thoughts on a Cobra Kai.
It's definitely like it turned into a more of a soap opera than I would have liked, but I think it really stuck the landing personally.
Oh, that's good. And Kiko,
Yeah, and
how
that's the
much of
reason
it
that I
have you
stopped
seen?
watching after 4. I haven't seen the last 2, even though I have heard that 5 is probably one of the best seasons. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Yeah, I really liked 5. 6 is they did the Netflix thing where they released it in 3 parts, and it's just too long.
Okay.
It's like 15 episodes.
And I
versus
came
10.
on board. I came on board late. I didn't see it. I don't even think I knew I knew it existed until maybe a few months after I heard about YouTube Red, and I kind of just blew it off as some kind of cash grab. And then I think I finally saw it. I'm not even sure how I saw it. Who told me about it? Somebody told me about it.
It may have been me. I don't know.
It might have been you.
I mean, I was on board right away. I subscribed to YouTube Red to watch it.
Okay.
Because it was, and by the way, YouTube has not stopped bugging me to resubscribe.
What's on YouTube Red anyway?
Nothing
It's dead now.
anymore. It's YouTube. They changed it to YouTube Premium, so the only benefit is you don't have commercials.
So does
But they're
YouTube
not-
Red? Did they even
they're
make
not-
money off of that? Like how big it is now? Did they get any piece of the pie of the Cobra Kai pie?
They probably sold the show to Netflix, I would think.
Well, Sony was always producing it. I think I think they just got out of the game and Sony took it. Sony has a big deal with Netflix. Like that's why Sony is the only studio that doesn't have their own streaming platform.
Makes sense. Yeah, I loved the first season. I was on board.
It's so much
good.
better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect way to put it. Yeah, I love the first season. It just pulled me right back into 1984, 1985, and I was on board. And then the second one was fine. Then it started getting sillier and sillier, and I kind of fell off. But I'll try to finish it up because I heard that 5 was really good.
It does seem to have maintained a high level of like critical success throughout its run, which is good.
I think so.
Excuse my cat. Sorry.
Yeah. So we'll
Crane
get
kick
in. What?
Come on.
I told him to crane kick his cat.
No, he's very old. I can't.
Yeah. So we'll get into the Karate Kid Legends in just a few minutes, but we want to give a special shout out to Jocelyn. I do, at least. I'm wearing my UTSA hat and shirt. The UTSA baseball team just won 2 games in Austin against her beloved Longhorns and knocked them out of the NCAA baseball playoffs. So,
is UTSA move? Is it the College World Series like matchup already, or is it?
No, so the next round determines who makes the College World Series. So basically, UTSA is 2 wins away from the College World Series.
Wow.
Okay.
Have they ever reached that? I'm guessing not.
This is the first time they've ever made it this far. This is the first time they've ever won a tournament game, was beating Kansas State, and then they beat UT in back-to-back nights.
So what are they? What's their division? Are they Division 2?
No, it's Division 1.
Oh, they're Division 1 baseball.
Their conference.
Yeah. I didn't realize.
Is it conferences in baseball? I don't
Yeah, they're in the American Athletic Conference, but
okay,
this
cool.
is every conference in one tournament, basically, to go to the College World Series. So the UTSA is the only Texas team remaining in the entire tournament as well.
Isn't the women's side already set? Isn't it like Texas A&M?
It's Texas and Texas Tech.
Oh, Texas Tech.
That's
right.
For softball. But yeah. So
Did you see the pitch the other day where the catcher in the softball game, the catcher, like the pitcher pitched and the catcher like started like cringed and had something in her eyes?
Yeah.
No.
And then they showed the slow-mo and like a piece of mud came off the pitcher's shoe and she pulverized it in the air with the ball.
Yeah,
and it
that
just
was crazy.
blasted. It was shades of the Randy Johnson bird.
But it was like
strike.
a little piece of mud, right? And
Yeah.
it just shattered.
It was
into all the little
crazy. It was
pieces
crazy
into her
cool.
eye. Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't see that. I got to find that.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, but we've set it up enough. We've talked enough sports. I think we can go ahead and move on to covering. We've got 4 movies this week. Jared's only joining for 1, so
Yeah.
let's be mindful of his time and let's get started.
Here are this week's reviews.
So first up this week, we have the aforementioned Karate Kid Legends. So this is a film directed by Jonathan Entwistle, who I was looking it up to see if he had any connections to like Cobra Kai, because he is a TV director, but never directed any Cobra Kai, doesn't seem to have been involved, which is interesting, I think, taking on like the IP here. But yeah, the movie is, and again, the synopsis reads from IMDb, after Kung Fu prodigy Li Fong relocates to New York City, he attracts unwanted attention from a local karate champion and embarks on a journey to enter the ultimate karate competition with the help of Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso, which is slightly misleading in that is that last chunk is basically the last like 20 minutes of the movie, and for reasons we'll talk about in a minute, a little bit abbreviated. But yeah, so what we have here is the first feature film since the Jaden Smith Karate Kid, which was in 2010.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like, I think, designed to be a merging of kind of like the Machio, Karate Kid timeline, if you want to call it that, and then the timeline established with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. And so what you have is kind of like a story about, again, a kid who has faced a tragedy, who is basically is told to kind of like sworn off fighting, but once he gets to New York City, finds himself wrapped up in it, and involving himself with a girl, and weirdly finding himself training her dad for a boxing match using kung fu, and so it's a little bit of a weird kind of story that gets there, because a lot of this movie is spent with Ben Wong, who's the lead, training Joshua Jackson as a boxer. But I think the movie for me can kind of be told in 2 parts, one of which is the first 2 acts and one of which is the 3rd act, because I think that you get 2 kind of different things here. I think the first 2 acts really are like relatively effective in what they're able to do. I mean, you get introduced to Ben Wong, who I think is definitely the star of the movie and the best thing. Mm-hmm.
Ben Wang.
Are you sure about that?
I am sure, yes.
That's the pronunciation of W-A-N-G, even though it's Shang-Chi and not Shang-Chi.
Oh, well, I don't know about, I mean, Wong, anyway, maybe, I don't know.
I thought
you were pronouncing it. I thought you were pronouncing it W-O-N-G. I apologize.
No, I'm trying to.
We are clearly not the most literate in, traditional Chinese.
We are
names.
not. But just so I know, so you know what I was doing.
I got it.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yes,
Yeah.
I just thought you may have been transposing.
No.
A to no.
My
apologies.
Should we be talking about this?
Oh no, we're getting canceled for sure.
Well, we've done this for years, where we've confidently pronounced something and then
Yeah, and then been way wrong.
yeah.
But anyway, I think he is the I mean, he's a star of the movie. He's really good in it, and I think he's effectively sort of charming and really does well in this part. And I think, you know, the setup between him, his relationship with the female character Mia, played by Sadie Stanley, I think is well established and well done. And you kind of get the sort of like I'm very removed from the Karate Kid world, so I imagine that, you know, the sort of antagonist of the movie plays the prototype of the kind of like bully jerk kind of hotshot that he kind of gets himself involved with. But
what have you seen, to remind people?
I mean, I've seen the first one at some point in my life, but I don't remember like any details of it whatsoever.
Okay.
And that's
it, just the first one, and then that's it.
Yeah. So again, I think that the build up to it works well. I think the sort of like storyline of the tragedy and the trauma that's happened, you know, works pretty well. I don't know how much I love the Joshua Jackson training stuff, but I think it serves the story just fine. I think it works well to see, you know, this character's, you know, skills and sort of how he's pulled back into, you know, still really loving this thing. And then we hit like the third act, which is when Jackie Chan kind of reappears in the movie, and this is where kind of like Ralph Macchio gets involved. So first things first, you know, you look at the trailer, you see the billing, you think that this is like, you know, Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio are huge parts of this movie. They're not. Ralph Macchio doesn't really show up until like an hour in, and it all sort of unravels in this way that like this character of Lee ends up entering himself into a kind of like citywide fighting tournament, and he ends up getting trained by Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio. And for whatever reason, the movie that had been like decently paced and like, you know, playing out normally just hits the accelerator for some weird reason. And it's basically like the final act of the movie is like a 20-minute montage of what it feels, of a lot of stuff happening really fast for no real reason. And it gets, I think, a little bit confusing too, because like the training is happening while the tournament is taking place. And so they're cutting back and forth between like the training and then the tournament and then the training and the tournament. And it's a little bit disorienting. And also you don't really get to see like this character learn from the training either. Like it feels like in normal training montages and like fighting movies, you see them struggle and then work on this thing for a really long time, and then you see them maybe even like go through ups and downs within the fights themselves. No, this is all happening rapid fire. Fight, training, final fight. And it all is just condensed together. And so I don't think anything at all in the final act really sticks. And I think it's to the detriment ultimately of the movie, where I think it actually kind of sinks the movie a bit, where, you know, I just found it to be, and not to the point where I think it's like a bad movie or anything, but I found it like really undercuts like the power of the relationships. I think it really undercuts the sort of build up to this kind of like underdog story that's brewing. I think it undercuts anything that like Ralph Macchio has to do, or really Jackie Chan for that matter. And it's just kind of disappointing that the movie seems like almost like it's in a hurry to get finished for no real narrative reason at all. In fact, probably to the narrative detriment. So that's where I'm kind of at. I think it's 2/3 of a solid sort of like franchise movie that I think successfully reboots it, gives you a really charismatic character, brings in, you know, Jackie Chan, who I think is like funny in the role and kind of plays that part, and then kind of takes this third act and just doesn't really stick any of the landing for me. But since Jerrod is in costume, I'm going to go ahead and go to him next.
I'm wearing my Miyagi-Do headband for the audio listeners, and I apologize. It is Ben Wong. I looked up the pronunciation. I've literally only read it, and like I said, I am ignorant of traditional Chinese names, so I apologize to anyone who may have been offended by my error there. So
Jerrod Kingery. Okay, Jerrod Kingery.
Yeah, well, I mean, people mispronounce my name all the time, so
oh, that's right.
I'm sympathetic. I'm empathetic
and
to
mine.
It. Yeah. So I echo a lot of what you say, Cody. The thing about this movie is, having gone through the whole Cobra Kai experience, I was wondering just who the heck this movie was for initially, because I've gotten wary of these sort of legacy sequels that have been coming out. Like, I don't hate the last two Ghostbusters movies that were released, but they're not like, they're maudlin, like nostalgic, rose-colored glasses sort of movies that aren't really funny.
Yeah.
It's more of like, oh, didn't you love this character? Like, I hate the third act of Ghostbusters Afterlife when they introduced the digital ghost of Harold Ramis. I fucking hate that so much. And seeing this, that they're bringing Ralph Macchio in, and Jackie Chan, not as much, because I that's not, I don't have an attachment to that movie. I didn't mind that movie, the 2010 Karate Kid, but it's not something I grew up with watching. There was a cartoon series, and I had this headband when I was a kid. This isn't the same one, but there's action figures, and I mean, it was a huge deal. I remember, seeing the first Karate Kid on VHS, probably, or on TV, one of the two. And I remember like waiting in line with my cousins to see the second one, and loving, being an 8-year-old, loving the climax where he, live or die, punk. What does he say? And then he honks his nose. Anyway,
yeah, I thought that was going to be a honking.
I
the nose.
did too. I
turned to my son and I was like, he's going to honk his nose, and my kid thought it was the most funniest thing ever.
But anyway, that said, it surprised me how engaging this movie was from the get-go. And Ben Wong has a lot to do with that. He's really great in this. I think he's great. Joshua Jackson, I really liked. It's such a mortality check to see star of Dawson's Creek playing a grizzled old restaurant owner boxer.
Yeah.
But I think that dynamic works. I like the switch up of him training him, and it's got that sort of Jackie Chan silliness in the kung fu. Like, there's a fight scene outside of his restaurant that is it's very Jackie Chan. It's not quite to the extremes, but you can feel that sort of, like, there's a trash can lid involved and punching through it and all kinds of stuff. I think the mistake is, I mean, bringing in Daniel LaRusso at this point, after we've already had, because anybody that's watching this movie or that was excited to see this movie has watched Cobra Kai. Like, I don't know that there's a young audience for The Karate Kid.
Yeah. It
was quite full at the afternoon showing I went to, but I feel like this is meant for like guys my age, guys Kiko's age, and maybe just, a touch younger. The people that watched Cobra Kai, the people that followed along, that were in love with it. Because, like, bringing Macchio back at this point is like, oh yeah, I just saw 6 seasons worth of this on Netflix. And they bring him back with really nothing to do. He just sort of shows up an hour in, and at that point, like you said, the movie really hits the gas. And I think you said it, Cody, it's almost like a montage, the last half hour of the film. And I don't hate, like, I think it's creatively edited. There's some like comic elements in there, and like comic booky looking elements in there. And excuse me. I kind of love the weird nicknames all the fighters get.
Yeah, I did not like that, but I hear you.
It was very like sort of a streetwear thing. But like at that point, like, the antagonist has no arc whatsoever. Anything that was going on with Joshua Jackson's character is just kind of done. Ming-Na Wen has almost nothing to do. And Jackie Chan shows up for a little bit of comic relief, and then Daniel LaRusso shows up to like he never takes his jacket off. Like, he's just sticking around. Like, I think he literally never takes his jacket off. He's there for a cup of coffee, as the old timers might say. But
he doesn't take his jacket off because he doesn't want to put it back on and then take it back off.
See, that's not Miyagi-Do style. That's
why he doesn't want to do
Mr. Han
Exactly.
style. And the movie does a nice job, because the 2010 movie was intended to be a reboot. And I think this movie does a good job in merging those two things. Though after watching Cobra Kai, it's like, well, how many secrets did Mr. Miyagi have?
Yeah,
but like
that's why it's going to continue with his illegitimate son coming up or grandson.
It does retcon. Well, it does a nice job of, it takes a story from Karate Kid Part 2 and turns it into like a connection between the two movies, which I thought was clever. I had to actually look it up that was an actual like scene in the movie, that they didn't just kind of invent it.
They did. Didn't they invent it? Yeah, they invented the second part of it.
The slight details there, but like the story about his ancestor like falling asleep in the boat, like that's in the movie,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I was ready to kind of dismiss it whole cloth, but I went in not expecting much, and I really came away enjoying most of it. Well, I guess 2/3 of it. That's most, right?
Yeah.
And that's how math works, right? 2/3. But I think the end really undercuts any sort of narrative that was happening. I don't think it destroys it totally. I don't think it ruins the movie. It's just like this movie could have used another 20 minutes, which is a rare thing to say, and it's barely an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
So like it could have used more fleshing out.
Yeah. You mentioned a detail that I just wanted to jump on real quick, which is you mentioned that like a lot of the fighters have nicknames, and it was really funny to me, and I laughed out loud, and because I did not like it. I'm like, this is stupid, because you see like the tournament winnings, and it's like Blaze something or something like that, and then the antagonist, it just says Connor, and that's it. So everyone has like a badass name, and his name is Connor. Yeah,
I mean that tournament, it's the New York equivalent of the All Valley tournament. A
tournament that can't somehow get done in one day, even though there's only like 3 rounds of it. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, enough time to train another 5 times in between matches.
Karate Kid has an ultimate world. Cobra Kai has an ultimate like world tournament in it. In the last couple seasons.
Oh, we also forgot the change in venues. How many times each round had to be at a different place?
I think that's part of the idea of the tournament, though.
Yeah, it's like
takes place all around New York.
Well, it's supposed to be like a streetwear,
YouTube generation.
What am I trying to say? Like
a sponsored tournament,
like a pickup basketball sort of thing. Like I don't know if not and one, but like it feels like it's just sort of it happens where it happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't hate that part. I just hated how little time it spent on anything about
any of it. Yeah. Kiko, why don't you go ahead and tell us about you have your own relationship to Karate Kid, so
same thing.
Even though you didn't bother to wear a costume, you can go ahead.
I did forget. I was gonna wear the one that the shirt that I met Machio in last year. He's one of only 2 celebrities that I've ever purchased a picture from.
Who was the other?
The other is my Hollywood crush, Shannon Sossaman.
Oh wow!
What a weird that answer.
What a weird combo.
So anyway, the original Karate Kid was my favorite movie growing up. I couldn't even tell you. It's funny because Cody's seen it maybe once, and I couldn't even tell you how many times I've seen it over the last 40 years. It was on yesterday during the day as I was working. So with that said, none of the sequels or remakes really caught for me the same magic as the original, with the exception of some of the more emotional scenes of Part 2, and then of course the first season of Cobra Kai, which surprised me, like we talked about. So with Legends, I don't know, it feels a lot more about how much they can milk the franchise now that Cobra Kai has wrapped, and probably before it starts looking ridiculous to have Ralph Macchio like do a roundhouse kick at the age of 70, which could still happen if this does well. So I agree. I think the smartest thing that this film did was to figure out a way to combine the original franchise with the 2010 remake and the history behind, like Miyagi's karate and Han's karate. So I thought they did a really smart thing with that, and they could, go in different ways if they decide to continue with this franchise. But besides that, I was disappointed at how flat the screenplay was. Like, there's the secondary storyline we already talked about that takes up the first half of the film that pivots to what most Karate Kid movies are known for. And it's about that pizza owner who owes money to some loan sharks and has to get back into boxing to pay it off. And it's like, okay, it's boxing. We knew already that the original Karate Kid was basically Rocky, but nothing came out of that relationship between.
It's literally the same director and a ripoff of Rocky.
Right. The main kid and Joshua Jackson. I didn't think it added too much story. There was a lot of montages. I think this whole movie, you're talking about the last montage. There was like at least 5 or 6 montages in this, and that's not even. I mean, I was looking back on some of the Rockies, and I think Rocky 4 probably had the most out of the Rockies and had 2. This one at least has 5 montages.
Well, it's got, I mean, like the last act, like all of the tournament is basically a montage.
Yeah, right. But there's even more. There's montages in the boxing. I mean, they're using the wooden pizza shovels to train.
I'm fine
I did
with
not
that.
like any of that.
I'm sorry. I'm fine with that. Like getting from point A to point B and like compressing that timeline. But compressing the tournament was a mistake.
I mean, it's basically an entire act of the movie that is a montage.
Yeah,
like, that's not an exaggeration at all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's true. So, the other thing that bothered me was this incredibly lame villain who brings absolutely no charisma or danger to the role. You know, as shitty as Karate Kid 3 was, at least like Mike Bad Boy Barnes was an actual threat. You know, at that, maybe it's because I was little that he was scary to me. So this actor felt like a stooge you'd fight like in a kid's action movie from the 90s, like Three Ninjas or Secret of the Ooze or something like that. He was pulled out from that cloth. And so I did not like him at all. I thought, you know, he's just a wasted, you know, it was just like a third tier type villain. So none of that worked. Finally, the actual karate tournament, I thought it was an unrealistic competition that spans, I don't know how many days across different venues. And I didn't like how they purposefully try to stylize it like a video game. And I just thought the whole thing was predictable, you know, where it's going to go, how it's going to end, of course, a million miles away. Yeah, that's the way it ended, and that's the way I thought it was going to end. So I just was overly just sloppily plotted up to the very end. And yeah, I won't even get into the Ralph Macchio stuff because I love that character so much. But yeah, he comes in at the end and just kind of, you know, puts a small stamp on it just to call it, you know, a Karate Kid movie. But yeah, I think that this is probably going to be his last time through this thing.
And I think for me, like a lot of what I think about the third act is that it's just clumsy. I think the device they use to get Jackie Chan to Ralph Macchio is just like, it just doesn't make sense. Basically, Jackie Chan is like, oh, I got to go talk to someone. And then next thing he's in Los Angeles across the country. And it's like, all right. And all right. That's you're not even going to put any effort into this.
That was definitely a red eye flight for sure.
Well, and I think I talked to you, Cody, about this, and a friend of mine mentioned this. It feels like it was written as a sequel to the 2010 Karate Kid. And then the success of Cobra Kai forced them to put Ralph Macchio in it. Because, I mean, Jackie Chan is barely in it himself, and Ralph Macchio is in it, like I said, for like 10 minutes, maybe, of screen time.
I did like the William Zabka cameo at the end.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, that's the post... Anyway, not that it was unexpected, but it's literally like, that's literally like a cut Cobra Kai joke. Like, I mean, look, watching...
Wait, did they make that joke in Cobra Kai?
They've made 1,000 jokes like that, like literally.
Oh, okay. I
the
thought
final
you said that they're pulling it out of.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry. The final scene of Cobra Kai. Look, like I said, if you're watching this movie, you're more than likely a Cobra Kai fan. Like the end of Cobra Kai, like the last scene of Cobra Kai as it wraps up. You know, it's a light scene. You know, everything's finished. It feels like that scene. Like it just feels like the same thing over again. It's like, well, why did we? I mean, I love seeing William Zabka because I think he's literally the best part of Cobra Kai. And when the show remembered it was about the Johnny character, it was really good. But this cameo is like it's like we just saw this. I just saw this like 5 months ago. You know, like it just did the same thing. So that's the part that kind of annoys me is that this. And I know there's all kinds of weird things about tying in TV shows to movies, because maybe not everybody saw the TV show, but you're already milking this lore for all it's worth. Like, just fucking make it a direct connection to Cobra Kai. Like, mention it for at least. Like, it's not even really mentioned in the story.
Is it? I don't even remember hearing the words Cobra Kai in it, but I might have missed them.
I mean, there's a reference to well, I think Johnny makes a reference to Cobra Kai
at the end
in the final joke. But like, you know, you just spent 6 seasons in this very well received and popular Netflix show, you know, on the subject, and you know there was like 5 karate wars in the fucking show, like, and this movie is only going to live beside it forever on streaming. So why not connect the two? If you're already milking something very old. Like nobody's coming into this fresh. Like, no kid is like, what's this?
Yeah.
Because you're already introducing a character that, like, you know, a man in his 60s and a man in his 70s from previous films. Like, what are we doing here? But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, let's just get into final thoughts and grades. So again, for me, I think that this movie is, you know, entertaining enough for the first 2 acts. I think above all else, the big takeaway here is like, I'm curious to see the career that Ben Wong has, who I think is really good in the movie, really charismatic, can obviously do the action sequences. And then the movie just sort of drops the ball a bit. You know, I probably would have like very lightly recommended this had I thought that the third act worked. But again, it's accelerated for almost no reason. I think it's disorienting and jarring the way in which it's edited. It doesn't have any room for anything to breathe. You don't build up the stakes. You don't build up the training. You don't build up the relationships. You don't build up the sort of like highs and lows of the tournament. You don't get any kind of arc within the tournament itself. And I feel like it kind of just does everything else a disservice. So ultimately for me, it is enough to bring it down to what I'm giving it, which is a C+. Again, I think had it had a better ending, it might have hit that B- mark. But for me, it's just hard to overlook an entire act of a movie. So Jerrod, I'll go ahead and go to you for your final thoughts and grade.
Yeah, you know, like I said, I enjoyed most of it, and I don't hate the final act. I'm just disappointed that it wasn't given the room to breathe. Like I said, I was charmed by it. Ben Wong is great. I believe he's in the next Hunger Games movie that's coming out. Looks like he was in Mean Girls. I don't remember him in Mean Girls, but
I don't either.
The musical Mean Girls, I guess. Anyway, so for me, it was something that I had very low expectations going in, and I'm not saying that like it just barely went above that. Like no, I was genuinely enjoying the movie, and I do feel like the end is a disappointment. I don't feel like it torpedoes the whole movie, so my grade is a B-.
All right, and Kiko.
Yeah, so for me, again, the original Karate Kid is a movie that's just one of those nostalgic things that makes me, you know, really happy. I love watching that movie. So I'm glad they were able to get Ralph and Zapka in this, and I love all the Miyagi references. But just bottom line, I think Karate Kid franchise has run its course. It's not the best Karate Kid movie, but it's not the worst either. So you can breathe easily. Hilary Swank, you still have the bottom of the barrel Karate Kid. And I'm giving this a very, very average C.
Let me tell you real quick. You need to watch season 5 of Cobra Kai, Kiko, and not necessarily a spoiler, but Hilary Swank is literally the only legacy character that has never returned.
Oh, really? So she doesn't come back? Interesting.
No.
So why did you bring up season 5?
Because other characters do that you discussed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
that didn't come in from 1 through 4?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Okay. Wow. So he comes back? Interesting.
Yeah, and it's a great arc. So anyway.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, season 5 is good.
Part 3 is terrible.
Part 3 is terrible, but it mined the most enjoyably
make his knuckles bleed.
It created the most I think cheesily enjoyable season of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I did like when the villain in part 2 came back in. What was season 3 that he first came?
Yes. He's a very old, normal-looking man.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. It's like, oh, what happened to what happens to the six pack?
Yeah,
He doesn't have it anymore.
the one thing about Cobra Kai, they could not try less hard to make it not look like Atlanta. like it's like this. They're like driving. One scene, they're like driving to some house, and there's like piney woods. Like, come on, man, this isn't L.A. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Well, all right. Well, Jerrod, thanks as always for joining. You're welcome
Sure.
back anytime. Maybe a little bit of Jurassic Park action. We'll see.
Oh man, I'm not even looking forward to that.
And you are like kind of like an apologist for Jurassic World.
The first one only.
Yeah.
The other two, the second one is, I hate that movie more than I hate a lot of movies.
Fallen
Kingdom. The third one it sucks, but it's just like kind of normal bad.
I don't even remember the third one.
The third one, they brought back, if you remember, they brought back
they brought back
Sam Neill and
Maury.
Laura Dern,
Yeah.
but they like had them do a heist of bees or some shit. I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. But there's yet another island. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
All
Or
right,
the most dangerous dinosaurs.
Oh,
this time.
Jesus Christ. All right.
All right.
But thanks, guys. I'll see you around.
All right.
Talk
Bye,
to you
Jerrod.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. And the remaining two of us here will move on. And our next film is Bring Her Back. Bring Her Back is a horror movie from A24, directed by Danny and Michael Philippou. These are Australian directors who sort of are YouTubers who transitioned into sort of feature filmmaking. Kind of made a bit of a splash with their previous movie, Talk to Me. Kiko, have you seen Talk to Me?
Yeah, I did. I actually saw it maybe a few months ago for the first time. I didn't see it at the theater, and I was pleasantly surprised at how effective that was.
Yeah.
It was pretty. There was some pretty scary parts. I mean,
It's
takes a lot
legitimately
for-
unsettling,
Yeah.
and I think that is more than I can say for a lot of horror. But it's like super unsettling and really dark, and I don't know that it entirely worked for me, but like the first third of that movie is like super fucked up, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I read about the directors recently too, that they were, they came from like a YouTube background, which is incredible to me that they didn't, have any other, filmmaking background. But they were offered like some, more mainstream stuff, and they said no to it, just to make something that's a little bit more indie looking and a little bit more, unique. So I commend them for that, for not going out and doing like a remake of like White Black Christmas or something, or whatever
Yeah.
would come up their way, or straight to streaming type thing. So holding out for something like Bring Her Back, or the one before, was pretty ballsy of them, actually.
For sure, yeah. And so this movie is described very simply. I'll go into the more detail, but the official synopsis is: a brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. So basically, the movie is framed around two siblings, one of which is blind, the sister, and basically. A tragedy happens within their life that leads them to being placed in a foster home. So the boy is on the verge of turning 18 and plans to basically adopt his sister eventually and move away. But for this short period of time, they both need to be in a foster home, and they agree to be together, and they go to a foster home that is played by Sally Hawkins, is the parent in the foster home. And Sally Hawkins has just underwent a loss of her child somewhat recently, and basically the ritual. And I don't think this is a spoiler. I think this is basically in the title and in the synopsis. But basically, has devised a plan to try to bring her lost daughter back from the dead. And in order to do so, she may have to do some things with these newly acquired children that she has, and that's basically the crux of the movie. So, I'll start by being complimentary to the Philippous, who I think this movie looks really great. I mean, I think it's got a really nice stylized look to it. There's a lot of interesting like camera angles to it. There's a lot of camera movement that works. A lot of it takes place in the rain and like looks really cool. And I think that like just visually, these guys have a really nice eye for slick filmmaking. I think that it does lean into the darkness. There is a lot of like the continued unsettling stuff that happens. If you have a problem with teeth, you may want to look away a couple of times. There's some disturbing tooth-based things in it.
Tooth-based horror, that's a new subgenre. Okay.
Exactly. And I think that like there's some really good performances here. I think in particular the main character, the older brother, is played by an actor named Billy Barrett, who I think is like really excellent in the movie. And he also is responsible for, I think, the one thing about the movie that works the best, which I'll get into in a minute. Also, Sally Hawkins, you know, obviously has great pedigree. She's really good in the movie as well, as kind of like a grieving mother. And I think this movie kind of, you know, does a nice job of ratcheting up the intensity of everything. I think the thing that works the best about the movie is this brother-sister relationship. And I think that you really get a sense of this character's care for his sister and, you know, him going out of his way to protect her and protect her both physically, but also protect her from, you know, maybe her getting her feelings hurt or, you know, understanding the sort of severity of certain things that have happened in their lives, the trauma that they've experienced, you know, trying to shield her from a lot of those things and ultimately trying to protect her when she gets into this kind of perilous situation with the Sally Hawkins character. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit where this movie gets really kind of tripped up for me. And, you know, I realize that the Philippines are exploring topics like grief, and they're doing so in kind of like a messed up, dark way. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the sort of like idea of this movie and the theme that they explore, from what I gathered, was this is ostensibly a movie about like the levels through which a grieving parent will go to, you know, as part of their grief, you know, to, you know, get their lost one or loved one back.
Right. She never crosses that acceptance threshold.
Right. And sort of like it's an exploration of like how far a grieving parent would go, right? And I think that's so like the theme of the movie, the exploration, and just taking that into a really dark place. My opinion here is that I think in order for this storyline to work, that you need to have some element of sympathy or empathy for this character to be able to see like, wow, this is a grieving person. She's going through a lot. I can understand why she would do it. Like maybe even make you think like, gosh, would I do this to bring my kid back? Or like have that exploration, have it, you know, the exploration of grief feel authentic, have it feel empathetic. And especially because this movie kind of asks you to empathize with this character, and that is abundantly clear in like the final shot of the movie, which I won't spoil, but clearly that's supposed to be like an emotional moment. The problem, I think, is that this character played by Sally Hawkins is so repugnant the entire way through that I don't think that any of this establishment of empathy can ever or does ever happen. And as a result of it, it leaves me feeling like everything that happens in this movie is like mean and fucked up for the sake of being mean and fucked up. Like it goes through lengths that are like pretty extreme in terms of how it treats its characters and the things it does to some of its characters. And again, I'm not even talking about from like I'm offended perspective. I'm more talking about the idea that like it's like really it's not earned, and it feels like the terminology that I like to use is like it's like an edgelord kind of thing, where it's like pushing the boundaries for the sake of pushing the boundaries. Like, hey, watch us do something messed up, without really having that sort of emotional resonance to it, because you've created this character who is like manipulative and gaslighting, kids and into thinking certain things, and being, abusive and doing like all of these crazy things. And it's supposed to be all in the name of grief, but again, you don't give her any kind of empathetic element. And so the character is so hateable and so like objectively bad that it just left me feeling like nothing that this movie is trying to get me to feel thematically or earn emotionally is working at all. And for me, again, that really undercuts like the thematic grief elements of what I feel like this movie is trying to do. So that's kind of my feelings on it. I'll go to you, Kiko.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's an interesting take. I didn't feel like I needed to feel for her. I guess that's where I guess we're disconnected with that part. Like I was fine with her just being this manic person or this mean person, like you said. Or there's some things that like you said, I think they overdid it. You're talking about them like just doing like mean things for mean things' sake. I saw that with the gore, especially, which could fall kind of underneath what you're talking about. Anything that's like overly gory in this, I think they just did it for gore's sake.
Yeah.
Which I wish they would have just pulled back a little bit. Not that I'm offended at gore or anything like that, but I think just some of those scenes were just a little bit overboard for what it should have been going for. So I'll start off by saying when it comes to horror movies that, where the theme is to bring back, a loved one from the dead, I think, it's pretty serviceable in my opinion. I remember films from my childhood like Pet Sematary, and this one that really fucking creeped me out when I was little called Serpent of the Rainbow, back from the 80s. Those are really were the first two that I ever saw that kind of fall underneath this umbrella. So the first elements that I like were Hawkins Sally. She's playing this unhinged role. I thought she played it really well. She matched with the gorier scenes that we see unfold during the home scenes specifically. And I'll emphasize the home scenes because there's other gory stuff that happens that's away from the home that I didn't dig at all. So I'll get to that in a little bit. Secondly, again, the film, when it goes to the gore, it has this extremely when it's not going for the gore, it has this extremely disturbing vibe, in my opinion, that felt a lot like recent horror films like Hereditary and Midsommar. So I'll point to a couple of scenes involving Sally Hawkins without giving too much away. But there's a scene, there's something that she does to each of the kids. One to the brother, and has to do with something that she does to him at night. That's not gory, it's just fucked up, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another scene with the sister that is not disgusting, but it's violent, but there's no gore, right? And those two scenes are just like, they're just really, really, they were very hard to kind of accept happening to like kids, because one's 17 and one's like a younger teenager. So they're just very hard to watch, I think, in my opinion. So there was a lot of gasping in my theater when these things were happening. Like,
that to me, that the second one is the example of the thing where they're just like pushing for the sake of pushing.
See, okay. See, I think that was needed. And again, there needed to be a way to get to the next point. And so let me tell you why I like that scene, and it's mostly because of the whole Sally Hawkins character. I just always think that she's a step ahead of them, right? She's always making like the stressful situation even more stressful, and she's always like one step ahead of what's gonna prevent her from getting to the final thing that she needs to happen to bring her child back, right? So I think that him being there, like you said, I think Billy Barrett is great in this film. He's this kid who wants nothing but to protect his sister, and by putting him in this like bizarre scenario, it pushes the stakes very high, and it is because of Sally Hawkins being this terrible person, right? So I just think that even though there were disturbing scenes, they were needed to make Sally Hawkins even more disturbing than maybe needed. And I understand exactly where you're coming from. I don't think I needed to feel for her, even though, and maybe it's because you find out like what's actually happened to her daughter, like where she is through the whole movie. Anyway, so what I found less fascinating, it's not enough to make me not recommend the film, but anything that had to do with that weird kid, because we haven't talked about the kid, but the kids move in with her, but she already has this kid that she's adopted, and he's very quiet, and he's bald, and he looks like really bizarre looking, and it just that character, I think you could have taken it out of the entire screenplay and anything cult related. those elements took the film to another type of horror flick where I think, it didn't match with the more domestic type of horror that I would have wanted to have seen. So, I understand the cult parts of the movie. They were in there because Hawkins uses them to show her the process of bringing the dead back to life. But those scenes were not clear to me what was going on. And there's even a scene I started laughing at because she was doing something to the kid and watching these cult videos like it was like a DIY YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, that's what I do when I try to jumpstart my car battery. I'm looking at this, and I thought that was ridiculous. I hated that. None of it rung authentic to me. But everything else just I thought was very disturbing, and that's kind of what I want to see from a horror movie. I don't care about the gore. The gore was fine. There was a scene with a knife in the mouth and things like that. It didn't do anything for me, but it didn't bother me the least bit either. So if they had stuck more to like the familial relationships and built that out a little bit more, I think I would have given a bigger thumbs up to this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into final thoughts and grades. And again, I think the unsettling pieces of it, like check. Vibe, like sort of scary, haunting vibe, check. I think where we sort of differ here is like the importance of this element. And again, it's important to me because number one, I think above all else, that is the linchpin of the themes of this movie. Looking beyond the horror is like, what is this exploring? It's exploring grief. And I think that if you are going to have your character go through these lengths for the grief, that I feel like the audience should be sort of like understanding, because grief is such a universal thing, and then also because it's the main theme of the movie. But I think the one again difference I have for you is that this movie lingers on its final shot for quite some time, which is a further emphasis of the theme of grief and what this character has gone and is going through. And to me, I'm like, come on. Yeah. I don't want to see this shot after what you just showed me.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I didn't even think about that last shot, and it does go on for a while. And now thinking back to it, I can see that totally. If they had, that shot doesn't make sense now that I think about it, when you're talking about, falling a little bit more behind Sally Hawkins as a character that you can empathize with. So you're totally right on that.
Well, and again, it's just my take, and I think again, I think that there's a lot of stuff that this movie does right, and I do think that these guys are talented, and I do want to see them continue to make like original horror movies and push the boundaries. I just want them to have a reason to do it, right? I want it to feel earned, I want it to feel like they're not just being edgy for the sake of being edgy, which I feel like this movie loses the line a little bit sometimes. So I think it's a near miss. I don't think that it's a bad movie per se, but another example of a movie that kind of gets an element so wrong that I've got to knock it down. So I'm giving this a C+. Kiko, your final thoughts. Did I give a grade to Karate Kid? I'm not just realizing I may have not given a grade.
Did you not?
I don't know. A C+ for me anyway.
Okay, C+ for you and
I'm not sure that my mind is missing. I don't know if we ever went to actual grades, but
okay, I can't remember either. I think we maybe got a little bit stuck into the nostalgia factor of it. We'll have to go back and
maybe I did give a grade because I did talk about how the final act of the movie I couldn't forgive. All right, whatever. I'm losing it tonight. Kiko,
it's all right. It's all right. It happens to us all. Yeah. For me, I think the section of the film that we want to talk a little bit more about in terms of what were you talking about? How it doesn't hit Sally Hawkins. Sorry, now I'm getting old brain, right?
Like the empathy piece?
The empathy, yeah. I think more of that comes from the kids for myself. But again, I completely understand where you're coming from as well with Sally Hawkins. But for me, the filmmakers, Danny and Michael Philippou, they could have left off all the cult references on the cutting room floor, and the film would have been just as disturbing. So I am giving this a B-.
All right. We will go ahead and move into our next film, Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. This is a French film that was written and directed by Laura Piani. And this movie it basically is described as a desperately single bookseller lost in a fantasy world finds herself forced to fulfill her dreams of becoming a writer in order to stop messing up her love life, which is a weird synopsis considering this movie can be described in different terms, which is basically this this aspiring writer that works at a bookstore is getting stuck on being able to finish a project and ends up going to basically this Jane Austen. She's a big Jane Austen like super fan, and she ends up going to this Jane Austen writers retreat or a residency that is held in like a Jane Austen family home, and she meets a distant relative of Jane Austen who
actually doesn't like Jane Austen books.
Who actually doesn't like Jane Austen books, and kind of they develop like a little bit of a relationship. While she's also dealing with sort of like a platonic kind of romantic relationship with someone back home. And she kind of explores that through, her writer's block that she's experiencing throughout.
This sounds a lot like a Jane Austen novel.
Isn't it? Or doesn't it? So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on this movie because it made almost no impression on me. I did not find myself charmed by really any of it. I think that, I think it's well acted and well done. It's sort of a split between French and English. And I think all of the characters are perfectly fine, even though one guy is clearly like Diet Hugh Grant. And
Timu Hugh.
Timu, yeah. But I think again for me, it just felt very generic, and I think that it does so in a way like maybe its goal here is to sort of like be like, oh, this is reminiscent of a Jane Austen movie, but really what it's reminiscent of is like the most generic dime a dozen rom-com, and I think that is more of what this kind of thing is, and I mean specifically like generic rom-com like Nora Ephron whatever movies,
but those aren't generic. You gotta give Nora Ephron a little bit of her due. When I think of generic rom-coms, I'm thinking of like, I don't know,
but what I'm telling you is it's like a generic version of a Nora Ephron movie.
Oh, okay.
Is what I mean.
Nora. Okay.
Yeah. And it just kind of like makes no impression. I don't really it doesn't land with me that these these scenarios are Austinious or whatever.
Are you making up words again?
Well, I mean, when you talk about like something being like
right, you're trying to
reminiscent of or derivative of a author or something like that, like Lynchian to describe David Lynch something.
There you go. I don't know. Austin's a tough one to crack.
Yeah. But I don't really buy into like these things mirroring certain concepts of it. And I think it's too sort of like on the nose with its representation of that.
I think most of them are pretty on the nose when it comes to Austen. So it's kind of hard to deviate from the formula.
Yeah. And I think there's just like a lot of dialogue having to do with like writing and stuff like that feels a little bit pretentious. I don't really think that this like love triangle that it ends up developing feels satisfying at all. And so just for me, I don't think it's like a bad or poorly made movie. I think that like, it looks nice. It's, takes place at this like, nice
chateau.
Yeah, let's
gotta say the word chateau.
It takes place at a nice chateau. There are a couple of like I guess amusing quips that happen throughout the movie. I don't think it's a good screenplay, but I did laugh a couple of times, I guess. I just really just didn't find any of the characters or settings or situations interesting. So yeah, for me, I was just left, pretty uncharmed, kind of uninterested. And again, not saying that any part of it is necessarily bad. I just think maybe I'm not the right audience for it.
You're swiping. What is it? Swiping left or right when you
swiping left?
When you're
saying
somebody?
no is swiping left.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm in the wrong demographic for online dating. Oh yeah. So for me, the most of these Jane Austen inspired movies, I think if you like them, most people are going to be on board with this one. If they enjoy like light romance matched with a familiar narrative arc that Jane Austen is known for. So this of course isn't a classic retelling of Austen's work, but more of an Austen adjacent story. So what I really liked about this film was that although it's a mostly predictable love story, the director writer Laura Piani, I believe that's how you pronounce it, she doesn't focus everything on the love story, and I like that part of the film. I like that it covers the idea that her main character, Agathe, I think you pronounce it. I thought it was Agathe, but I think it's Agathe. She has more to offer this world through her writing than just being swept off her feet by a couple of dudes. So I enjoyed that part. There's a scene closer to the beginning of the film where Agathe explains why a writer like Jane Austen is so important to the literary world. And it's because she's introduced these layered female characters to readers. And that's where I think sometimes these Austen-inspired movies, they fall short. It's like they can't even take their own advice from Austen, and that's how crappy directors make shitty Austen movies, like From Prada to Nada, or there was one a couple of years ago that Dakota Johnson starred in called Persuasion that was really bad. But for me, I think Jane Austen Wrecked My Life just is able to maneuver their way around any of the pitfalls that these types of movies happen to find themselves in sometimes. And a lot of it is just it's a very quiet romantic comedy. There's no big brash quips. You said there's quips. I think that's perfect. There's no big jokes. I like that. I like that there's a sense of maturity in this film. And so, I think that's the reason that I'm going to recommend this film. And that's where we are with that one. Definitely.
Yeah. So we'll go final thoughts and grades. Yeah. Again, for me, there was nothing really for me to grasp onto here in terms of, the characters, the story, the dialogue. There's a few quips that are again amusing, but for me, it just, I think sometimes with these types of movies, you get these like writerly movies that feel just like they're made for a different audience if you're not into like literature or, having these like long drawn out discussions about it or talking about, the Jane Austen influence on the literary world where I'm like, it's just maybe not, again, wrong audience. So for me, again, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think that, performances, script, visuals are perfectly fine. I'm giving it a C+.
Yeah, and for me, this film is an Austen-adjacent narrative that's, discreetly charming and has everything that a hopeless romantic will need to swoon. I mean, swoon to your heart's content, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what you get with this one. And so I'm giving it a B-. And be sure to go to CineSnob.net this week, where I have a video interview with the lead actress in Jane Austen Wrecked My Life, Camille Rutherford.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, well then let's go ahead and move on, and we'll talk about the next movie, Tornado. Tornado is written and directed by John McClane, and it is a film about a Japanese puppeteer's daughter gets caught up with criminals when their show crosses paths with a crime gang led by Sugar Man and his son Little Sugar.
Sorry. Those names are terrible, but okay.
That's it. So this movie is sort of like, I guess, like a quasi-Western kind of thing where, it shows this character, Tornado, played by Koki. That's, I guess, this is a Japanese, like, model, actress, songwriter. And she is basically stolen money from a gang and is sort of like in the process of trying to hide it, and she's part of a traveling show where her father's a puppeteer that does like a samurai show, and she's kind of caught, and they basically are hunting her to get the money back, and then she decides that she's going to fight them back, if that sounds simplistic, that's because this movie is, because that's basically all that happens in the movie. And it's just one long, sort of like chasing her down scene that has just like interpersonal betrayals and your typical themes of like someone being greedy, someone, taking advantage of certain situations. You have your revenge plot that exists within this, and so the sort of like gang of bad guys is played by Tim Roth. He is the Sugar Man, as was previously mentioned, and I don't know. I mean, I just think that there isn't really anything to this movie. I think that there's a lot of kind of like repetitive scenes of this girl kind of on the run and then like hiding the money and then them chasing after her and then them looking for her in different places. And, for me, it just got really dull and boring really fast. I think that I just think it's boring. And I think that once everything kind of kicks into gear in the final act, there's like a little bit of action where she decides to fight back and tap into her samurai side. The action sequences are filmed like so amateurish to me, where it looks very clearly choreographed, and there's like a lot of like close-ups that happen where like they clearly said action and then they slit a blade and then you just see like the slit of it. I just found it to be really not, it just felt amateurish to me. And I don't think that the action sequences, however few there are well executed. Again, it's another thing that like has sort of like good technical elements to it where it has a really nice like setting to it that takes place in like some kind of forest. I don't know where exactly they are or they're supposed to be.
I think they're in the British Isles.
Oh, that's right. I think you are right. Yeah, I think it is the British Isles. So there's a lot of like really nice setting to it. I don't, the performances are perfectly fine. I don't think that there's anything to write home about here. But yeah, I mean, it just is this simple movie about these bad guys chasing their stolen gold, and that's basically the extent of what happens to it. So for me, I don't think there's anything about this that sets it apart. There's no like element of this movie that makes a simple story interesting. We talk about sometimes how like, or at least I do, how sometimes like there's something to be said for like a really simple thing that's executed to perfection. And this is just like a really simple thing. I don't think it's executed to perfection. I don't think there's anything that pulls it in. I don't think it's, very interesting. For me, this is just kind of, it's a movie that's just kind of there. Your thoughts on Tornado?
Yeah, for me, Tornado, it felt like I had to write this down because it felt like a Quentin Tarantino genre mashup movie, but one where Tarantino forgets to write the script. So technically, this film is beautiful. I love the cinematography. It's done by Robbie Ryan, who has not one but 2 Oscar nominations to his name for The Favorite and for Poor Things, both Yorgos Lanthimos films. So, I mean, as art, cinematic art is concerned, I couldn't stop looking at this movie. It was beautiful. Every shot, especially at the beginning, was just mesmerizing to me. And then also the lead actress, Koki, who I didn't know until recently was a model and a songwriter from Japan. I thought that was solid casting. I think she's equal parts vulnerable and deadly. The deadly part, of course, coming near the end of the film, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because it was one of the major flaws, I thought, that it takes over an hour and change to actually get to the samurai revenge plot, which is likely why most people are betting on a film like this. So I thought it took entirely too long to get Koki, slitting throats and the like. So before that, the script, like you said, basically boils down to a posse chasing Koki, and they're doing it at a crawl. Like, and Koki's running, but they're just strutting behind, following her. And it reminded me, I don't know if you remember this movie from 2006, but it was a Western called Seraphim Falls, and it's where Liam Neeson is tracking down Pierce Brosnan's character, and it's just them. You can see them in the same shot, but it's just them, one following the other, and it's like 2 hours of them just like one tracking the other guy, and they slow down and they speed up, and it's just like going through trails, and it reminded me a lot of this, where it's just, wow, they're actually doing this in real time.
Yeah.
And so I guess it would have been fine because Seraphim Falls wasn't a terrible movie, but I didn't enjoy it that much. But I guess it would have been fine if it had a script that allowed for any of the characterizations or the relationships to build or to happen and to set everything up, because I mean you don't get any of that. And then when it finally happens, where she starts beheading people and doing everything else, it's just like you're just knocking them out one by one like most revenge movies do, and there's nothing behind it. So I from a art direction, the minimalist parts of like the production design, all of that worked for me. But the story itself, I mean, there's nothing there. I wish they would have given her, some backstory, given her, a reason to
done more
take
with her
this
dad.
money, done more with her dad. Something. Give me something. But it's just one bad guy group chasing this little girl through the woods, and that's basically it. I know it sounds minimalist. It is minimalist. Usually, I like stuff like this. But it was just too much. They needed a little bit of meat on this bone, and there was absolutely none.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into final thoughts and grades. And it's funny because this director's first movie was called Slow West, which would have been a great name for this movie.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And that's the thing, right? There's just, you said it. There's not enough or really any meat on this bone here. And again, it looks great. I think that there's decent performances that happen throughout, nothing that to write home about. But the fact of the matter is just like nothing happens. Like this movie is so, like you said, so minimalist that it is boring. And you and I, we go way back in our thoughts about, that I have always had issues with pacing, and I don't handle like the sort of like super really slowly slow burn pacing all that well. I never have. But this is slow even by those standards, where it just nothing is happening. And when it is happening, it's something you've already seen before in a different place or something like that. So for me, I'm giving this a C. Again, I think that there's technical elements that work. I don't think that this is an actively bad movie, but it's just so uninteresting. So go ahead, Kiko.
Damn, I was trying to look something up as you were talking.
Oh, really?
You talked about the slow burn. What was that movie called? You're not going to remember it at all because I can't. But remember, there was one time when you first started on CineSnob, and I took you to a movie about monks chanting.
Oh God!
And I loved it. I love that movie so much. And it's at the end. They're drinking to a Swan Lake because they realize that they're gonna die, and then they get taken into the forest and killed. Find the name of that movie, please.
Okay.
But I remember you as a a very
of Gods
young
and Men. No.
That might be it.
Yeah, that was it, right? It's a narrative movie, right?
Yeah. It's black and white, right?
No, this was a French movie from 2010.
That
about monks who were in the Muslim population of Algeria.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I remember that. Yep.
Yes. I think I just remember like coming out of it and being like, that was so amazing. I loved it. And he just like looked at me like, oh my God, how slow did that movie go? Because it was very slow. That's one of the slowest movies I actually think I've ever seen. Anyway, final thoughts for me. Tornado is an average briefcase full of money thriller, which is funny because there's tons of them. And I don't think I've ever seen one set in the 18th century. But anyway, I thought it had top-notch production value that's just wasted on a script that's very thin. So I am at a C+ on this one.
All right, and that's going to do it for this week. So next week, we've got a big week coming up. So we've got a couple of theatrical releases. First and foremost, we have Ballerina, or the full title of that movie is From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
Oh, really? I wonder what they're trying to piggyback off of.
Yeah, it makes you think, right? Which I've seen, but I'm not allowed to talk about because they've been very specific about embargoes. So I can't talk about that until tomorrow. But I have seen it. We also have The Phoenician Scheme, the new Wes Anderson movie. I'm always excited about a Wes Anderson movie, even if I haven't completely loved a lot of his more recent output.
Yeah, as am I.
Yeah, I didn't love Asteroid City. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah,
about
neither
it.
did I. Neither did I.
But I will never not give Wes Anderson a chance with an open mind. And then we have a couple of other movies. We have Dangerous Animals, a new shark movie that's opening theatrically, and then the new Hulu movie Predator: Killer of Killers is coming out on Hulu.
Animated, right?
Yeah, it's an animated anthology movie. It's made by Dan Trachtenberg, or directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who also made Prey. I think you liked Prey more than I did. I thought it was fine. He also made the new Predator movie, Predator Badlands, that's coming out. So he's sort of the Predator guy now.
Oh, there you go. He's deep into it. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so we'll have a packed show next week. We'll see if we'll have Jocelyn back. I think we will. Also I have to add, Jocelyn wanted everyone to know that she hated, and I mean hated, Bring Her Back. To the point where she's really upset that she had to miss this episode.
Well, you know,
because
maybe we won't bring her back then. She was so opinionated about that movie. I guess.
Hey, those are Kiko's words, not mine. I'm not taking the heat for that. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to us, find us at CineSnob on all social medias. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's been super active lately with episodes of this podcast, as well as tons and tons of interviews. Kiko, you mentioned that you have an interview up with Camille Rutherford. From
I'll get
Jane
Camille
Austen Wrecked My
Rutherford up.
Life.
She talks a lot about some good things and how she confronted her characters. So yeah, hopefully that does well on social media. And I have some other stuff too. I've been doing so many I can't even remember what's next up. So
Yeah.
check it out though on CineSnob.net.
Awesome. Yeah. And you can also subscribe to Kiko's interview podcast, CineSnob Sessions and Somos Hollywood, available as well. I think that's going to do it. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit CineSnob.net. See you next week.